Hi, I'm Debbie and this is Book and Bujo, where I talk about all things books, bullet journals, and stationery. Thanks for joining me today for my mid-year freakout tag. So I did this tag last year and thought it was really fun, so I'm going to do it again this year, and let's go ahead and get started with question number 1. The best book you have read so far this year. There's quite a few. I have quite a few 5-star reads this year. So if I took through all of my 5-star reads and kind of narrowed it down, one of them I would have to say is Magefall, which is the 3rd book in the Kingfall History series by David Estes. That one was really good. And I absolutely loved Mother of Learning by Damagaj Kurmiak. This was so much fun. But I think my top place winner is going to have to be Shade's First Rule by AFK, the first book in the Divine Apostasy series. I think just because it had me cracking up throughout the book and it was so much fun. It's somewhat similar to Mother of Learning, a little bit similar style with some differences, but they're both excellent books. Question number 2, the best sequel you have read so far this year. So I'm taking sequel as meaning the second book in the series. Now, it could mean just a continuation of the series, so anything after the first book, but I kind of took it as the second book, and that is Dragonfall by David Estes, the second book in the Kingfall History series. I love this series. It is so interesting. It's so good. It's got political intrigue, it's got some romance, it's got dragons, it's got battles and war. Of course, you have neighboring countries that are, of course, want each other's land and use the other people as slaves, and people who are fighting for justice and things that are right, and is just so interesting. The character building and the plot is really good. I love how David Estes takes like each book, he kind of focuses on specific characters, and then the next book he may introduce some new characters, but he shows how they interact with the characters we've already met and have been intrigued by. And as the book goes on, you see all these different characters starting to come together, and it's just so good. Question number 3, a new release you have not read yet, but you want to. And this isn't super new, like it didn't come out in 2024, but it is from summer of 2023, and that is The Will of the Many by James Islington. I'm not sure how to say that. Looking at it, I would say Islington, but I've heard a lot of people say Islington, so by him. And I did just get this one on my Kindle, so hopefully I can fit it onto an upcoming TBR pretty soon. Question number 4. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and if, like most everybody else, it's got to be Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, the 5th book in the Stormlight Archives series. There is another book, there's 2 more books that I'm really anticipating, and I can't wait to read them, but they have recently announced that those won't come out until early 2025, so Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. Question number 5, biggest disappointment. Now, I usually don't have a lot of expectations going into books because I like to go into them blind and not knowing anything about what they're going to be about. Sometimes it turns out wonderful, sometimes it's not, but I'm usually not super disappointed, but this one I was. And that was The Book of Dragons by Edith Nesbit. I mean, The Book of Dragons. Even knowing it was a kid's book, I mean, like, how can you go wrong with a book about dragons? But this just was not for me. The tone of the writing was definitely more on the juvenile side. Some of the lessons that they teach in the stories were just, I don't know. Yeah. It's not very long, or else I definitely would have DNF'd it after like the 3rd story, but there was only 5 in there. I mean, there was 1 or 2 of them that weren't too bad, and 1 or 2 that I was just like, no, not for me. Yeah. But the illustrated book, I'm sure, would be quite beautiful. I had the ebook and didn't have any of the illustrations in it, so I think having the illustrations in with it would make it a lot of fun. Question number 6, biggest surprise. And that was definitely The Rachel Incident by Carolyn O'Donoghue. So this is one I didn't really know anything about it, and It was the group book for the Irish Readathon. It's put together by Leanne Rose and Words of Clover. And it is so much fun. I participated last year and I participated again this year, and it was super fun. Last year I wasn't able to get a hold of the group book, but this year my library did have the book, so I was able to read it, and I was super surprised. I wasn't really sure what to expect going into it. The way they were describing it, they both really loved it. They gave it 5 stars. They both had read it before and were excited to read it again for the group book. And they said it was pretty funny, and I ended up just loving it. For some reason, I was thinking it was going to be more serious and heavy, I guess, but it wasn't. It was super fun. There were some heavy moments in there, and there was some serious stuff in there, but otherwise it was just super fun. So you have 2 best friends that had just happened to meet one day. He started as a temp at the bookstore that she worked in, and they hit it off, became best friends, and it's kind of their story, the story of their life from that moment up into the present, where she's now married and is having a kid, and he's off in this big career. He's like this celebrity type guy, and it's just so much fun. I loved it, start to finish. Hooked me pretty much within the first couple chapters. I was hooked and didn't want to put it down. It was very good. Question number 7, favorite new author, either as an author's debut or the author is just new to you, and that is Ben Galley. I talked about him in one of my previous wrap-ups, which I will leave linked down in the description box below if you would like to watch that. But I thoroughly enjoyed his writing. So he wrote the Emaneska series, and I started with The Written, the first book in the series, and I loved it. I am so hooked. Another Kickstarter that I supported, and it is getting all of the books in the series. So you have The Written, which I just read. You have Pale Kings, and then you have Dead Stars Part 1 and Part 2. And then I believe the Scarlet Star trilogy is set in the same world. I could be wrong because I have not read them yet, but I do have the first book, The Forever King, on my Kindle, so I am looking forward to starting that series as well. So you will definitely see more from Ben Galley on this channel, especially when I start to get all of the Kickstarter books in from that campaign. Question number 8, newest fictional crush. I had to think about this one for a little bit. And there's a few characters that I like, and I'm only this far into the book, so I still have this chunk left, but so far, Rain, the Serpent, and the Wings of Night. And he is one of the vampires in the story, and just starting to get to know his character and who he is, and so far, I'm liking what I see. Question number 9, newest favorite character. This one, there's a lot of characters in the books that I've read so far this year that have been amazing, but this one keeps coming back to me, and that is Avon Green, which is the main character in The Insignificant Events in the Life of a Cactus by Dusty Bowling. And just the strength of character that that character has by just what life has thrown at her, and the amazing support system she has with her family, and she is just an amazing character. So she was born with no arms, and just watching her figuring out how to do things without having arms to do it with, it was just so inspiring. I loved it, and not getting discouraged and letting despair get her down, but being proactive about things and thinking outside of the box. It's great. I highly recommend that book. It was super fun. And it also has some wonderful portrayals of someone with Tourette's, as well as found family and some other beautiful themes. Question number 10, a book that made you cry. So I don't really cry at books too much. There have been a couple that I've read in the past, but it was like 2019, 2020, 2021, somewhere right in there. There was 2 of them, and they had me pretty much bawling on the couch, and my husband's like, what is happening with you? And I'm like, the book. It takes a lot to actually like cry at a book, but this one had me at least tearing up. I didn't really cry, but I did kind of tear up a little bit and was, got all verklempt. It was just Such a bittersweet moment. And that was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. It's towards the end of the book, and if you've read it, then you know the scene I'm talking about. Yeah. So bittersweet. Question number 11. A book that made you happy. And this one was There's No Coming Back from This by Anne Garvin. This book was so much fun. It was just a hoot. It had me laughing and giggling and chuckling, and it was just so much fun. The humor in it is great. I loved it. So we have the main character who's a mom. Her only daughter is getting ready to go off to college, and she is going to be spending the summer as a nanny. And come to find out, in her business, she hired an accountant and didn't oversee as much as she probably should have. And then the accountant basically took all of her money, and now she's trying to figure out what she's going to do. So she's glad her daughter is going to be away for the summer, so she doesn't have to worry her with any of the details. And she's trying to find another job because she can't really do anything with her business, because with the accountant having basically embezzled everything, she owes all these taxes that she thought were paid that was never paid, and she's got to find something to make some money quick, not to lose everything. She doesn't want to lose her house. She doesn't want to lose the business. It was her father's business. But then this makes her rethink her life choices and maybe make some different decisions, and not necessarily ones based on things like, but it was my dad's business. And whether you enjoyed that business or not, it was your dad's, so you're trying to keep it alive, right? So she has a chance meeting with an old boyfriend, and he's now in Hollywood. He works on the movie sets. He's like, hey, I can get you a job. It'll be a quick one. You get to live on site pretty much, and food's pretty much there too, because, you got craft services during the day. And so she's like, great, this would be awesome. Yeah. And so she goes out there, and of course, nothing is what he said, because, that's how it goes, right? And it's just her trying to find her way to make as much money as she can on this job and not lose her job or her mind or sanity or anything along with it. And of course, there's backstabbing all over the place because it's Hollywood, and there's a mystery that needs to be solved, and it was so much fun. I love that book. If you just need a good palate cleanser or something that kind of gets you out of a slump too, this one was a super quick read and is very fun. The other series I would recommend for the same reasons, definitely super quick bingeable series, and that is Grimoires of a Middle-Aged Witch by Renee George, which I have been reading through. I've at least 2 of them so far this year, and the other 2 I read last year, but I've gotten through 4 of them already, and I cannot wait to get to the last couple of books. They're so much fun. And I will leave linked somewhere, either up in the cards or on the end screen, the video where I talk about When the Spell Blows, the last one I just read. Question number 12. The most beautiful book you have bought or were given this year so far. And originally, I would have said The Sword of Kaigen, because that's just stunning. And the inside artwork, that is stunning. I'm a sucker for a dragon any day. But I recently did my unboxing, which I will also leave linked in the cards above and on the end screen if you want to check it out. But that is Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. Just alone, the cover is stunning. Now, there's no dust jacket, it's just the naked hardcover. And the sprayed edges are beautiful shiny gold. But then when you start flipping through the book and you realize that there is a hidden dragon in the sprayed edges, depending on which direction you move the pages. How can you not love that? So yes, the most beautiful book I've gotten this year so far. Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. Stunning. And lastly, question number 13. What books do you really need to read by the end of the year? All right, firstly, I need to read Of War and Ruin and The Ice by Ryan Cahill, because of Empires and Dust is coming out in the first quarter of 2025, and I need to get those two read so that I am ready to go when Of Empires and Dust comes out. So excited for that book to come out. And I've done my reread of The Fall of Blood and Fire, and then I also recently finished my rereads of Darkness and Light and The Exile. So Of War and Ruin and The Ice are up next, and then early 2025 we get Of Empires and Dust. The other books that I really want to get to before the end of the year, because the next book comes out also in the first half of 2025, and that is to finish the Songs of Chaos series by Michael R. Miller. So I've read Ascendant, and then I also read Last Stand of the Stone Fist, which is the prequel novella, but it is recommended to read it after book 1 and before book 2. So I've got both of those finished, but I still need to read Unbound, which is the second book in the series, Defiant, which is the third book, and then the fourth book will be coming out early 2025. There are quite a few other books that I would definitely like to get to. Like I need to get to Lightbringer for the Red Rising series, but I kind of want to wait until the last book is been announced for when it's going to come out, so then I can do a reread of the entire series. So I will probably do that next year, and maybe start in January and just keep reading until I'm done and that last book comes out. And I also need to finish A Day of a Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. So I loved Priory of the Orange Tree, and I really would like to get to A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon, because I really love this one. I like me a nice slow epic fantasy, and that's what this one's going to be. And of course, I would like to get to all of my special edition books and get those read too. So we have The Fangs of War, we have Sky of Fire, and we have the Gentleman Bastard series and Neon Ghosts, which I just got. And I kind of want to do a reread of the Six of Crows duology, but I may wait until we hear a little bit more about the third book, because Leigh Bardugo did say something about having a third book coming out in that series, and I will definitely want to reread those before the third book comes out. So we'll see. We'll play that one by ear a little bit, but definitely the Songs of Chaos series and the Bound of the Broken series I definitely need to read before the end of the year. And as well as The Books That Wouldn't Burn, Mark Lawrence, and The Will of the Many by James Islington, as well as his other series, the Lycanus trilogy. That's the other one. We'll see. There's so many books in so little time. But thank you for joining me as I went through my Mid-Year Freakout Tag questions, and consider yourselves tagged if you would like to answer these questions as well. I have each of the questions down in my description box below to make it a little easier if you would like to do this tag. And please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other videos from me. And until next time, keep reading. Bye.